Welcome to this video. My name is Ivan, and in this video, we're going to talk about how to achieve your dreams using 4 areas of grit. Okay, so you may have heard about grit before, and especially from Angela Duckworth. She's a psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania, and she has written a book called Grit. So this is a book that she has written. And in this book, she talks about a few things, but the primary overall theme is basically how grit is the power of passion and perseverance at the same time. Okay, so I want to give you a definition of grit from Angela Duckworth. So grit is basically sustained persistence over a long term towards a specific achievement with no particular focus on monetary rewards of some kind. Okay, so let's get into the 4 areas of grit. Now, these 4 areas, you will not find them anywhere because I came up with them. And this happened because I was trying to figure out, okay, what actually makes and creates grit inside the individual. And it had to be something that's, just some simple human psychological traits that if you combine together, you'll get grit. Okay. And I've looked at some research and YouTube and some books, and I could not find a more specific definition. And basically, I kind of had to develop myself what grit is. And basically, combining the stories, my own experience and research, I came up with these 4 areas. Okay. So the first area has to do with your brain's perception. Okay, so on the whiteboard, if you take a look at the whiteboard right now, you'll see that the first box I have over here is basically perception. Okay, well, perception comes after the brain chemistry. It's your biological condition, so the brain chemistry is actually really important because you're born this way. And you actually don't change throughout life. The only time you would change is if you take some kind of drugs, or if you damage your brain, or you develop some kind of mental disease like schizophrenia or something else. Something chemically changes in your brain with your glia cells or anything else. That's basically how you change the brain chemistry, and therefore your perception will change. Okay. So visual perception is what you're interested in because that's kind of the main thing that will be affecting how you see the world and then how you basically assign meaning to what you see unconsciously and consciously. So basically, the perception, we get perception actually from all 5 senses, the smell, the touch, the hearing, the visual, and so on. And basically, the experiences that we have, okay, it's basically an accumulation of all those senses archived emotionally inside of us. And the important thing about perception is basically whenever you see something, the brain is going to create a meaning and it's going to archive inside your brain. And this is why perception also creates projection thereafter. About the projection, the most important thing you need to understand about projection is what happens is you have your emotional state, okay? And then from that emotional state, the body takes that emotional state and it thinks it's now. So what it does, it takes that emotional state that you have in and now or you had in the past, if it's something in environment triggering a specific emotional response from the past, it combines the now and the past into the current, the situation, and then it projects it forward. Okay. And this happens from all the emotional memories that you have stored inside your brain in your body. And actually, here's a clip from Emily that talks about on TEDx how brain and body work together to create the perception.
In fact, our bodies and our mind work in tandem to change how we see the world around us. If you're not convinced yet that we all see the world through our own mind's eye, let me leave you with one final example. Here's a photograph of a beautiful street in Stockholm with two cars. The car in the back looks much larger than the car in the front. However, in reality, these cars are the same size. But that's not how we see it. So does this mean that our eyes have gone haywire and that our brains are a mess? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It's just how our eyes work. We might see the world in a different way, and sometimes that might not line up with reality, but it doesn't mean that one of us is right and one of us is wrong. We all see the world through our mind's eye, but we can teach ourselves to see it differently.
So when you were a kid growing up and a teenager, all those years you're growing up, there is a lot of memories stored inside of you, okay, which memory is stored, your unconscious mind and your conscious mind at the same time. But a lot of it is unconscious, the meaning behind what the brain sees and the reaction you're having. It's actually basically like trying to say, okay, if a person is going to the grocery store and basically buy something, what does this mean? Okay, or let's say you saw somebody fighting on the street as a kid, and your brain's going to say the same thing. Okay, what does this mean? Did they do something bad? Are these just bullies? I mean, it's all in the brain. And that's why in section 2, if you look at the whiteboard, it connects the environment and the beliefs. Okay, so we'll talk about beliefs in the last portion of this. Okay, so one more thing you need to understand about the experiences you have and why it's critical on an emotional level, because you have your experiences, okay, which are also emotional, and then you also get results. All of these get stored inside of you, and along with projection that I talked about in the perception part, okay, it also comes out from you, okay, when you're trying to make a decision in the future. Okay, so the results that you get from any kind of personal life or business life also get archived inside of you and impact how you make a decision to go forward. Okay, one thing that most people overlook or don't think about is the income that you need to have the experiences. Okay, so the less income you have, so your income is low, the less diversity and richness will be in your experiences, just because you cannot afford to put yourself into different environments with different people and actually relax and enjoy life, or be productive and invest into some business ventures. But it'll be the income that's preventing you from going and accumulating more and more different, okay, life experiences that will help you with your grit in the future. Okay, so generally speaking, if your income is higher since when you're younger, when you're a kid, a teenager, or a young adult, or even later in life, but mostly when you're younger, the more income, the better your grit will develop because of the experiences that you have. And these experiences get archived inside your brain, and then they come out as a part of projection. So basically, your experiences give you basically better perception of the world because you had more different windows, okay, from which you can see and understand the world. And therefore, when you see the reality, it's actually more real towards what it actually is. Okay, so this brings us to the third area of grit, which is about the beliefs that you have in your brain. Okay, so in the beliefs or that you have, okay, since you're a kid and growing up, a lot of it is actually gets stored unconsciously. And basically what happens every day that you live in different situations, your beliefs are coming out in terms of either emotion expressed or action taken, or inside your brain, you think thoughts that are kind of in your head, and the kind of the background noise that you hear all the time. The important thing you need to understand is a lot of these beliefs you do not have access to, and you can only catch yourself sometimes, okay, when they come out in specific moments very fast, if you have high awareness of yourself, you can catch your thoughts, your emotions, okay, and then these thoughts and emotions or attitudes, okay, they will link back to beliefs. And when you experience this, you can actually trace your emotion, thought, or attitude back to a belief. And it usually has to happen a few times before you can do it. But your awareness has to be really, really strong of yourself. Okay. Most of the time, it will just, you just will not be able to trace the belief. Okay. Now let's talk about how the beliefs are actually made. It is actually pretty simple how they're made. So what happens is when you're growing up, it doesn't matter when you're a baby, when you're a teenager, a young kid, it doesn't matter. It's basically the same thing. When you have experiences, okay, they are like, it's like basically the more or similar experiences you have, they get batched together, okay? You can look at it as a basically filing cabinet. And basically imagine you have a filing cabinet, okay, and it's A, B, C, D, whatever in alphabetical order, okay? And under each file, you have some kind of vendor for a business. Let's say it's called Alpha Construction or American Eagle. Basically, you have these sheets, and sheets represent the experiences that you have, okay? And I'll put a picture on up so you can see. So basically what happens is over time you have these different blocks or filing cabinets essentially. Now it's not like these beliefs are very like stringent or strict. You know, at the core of it there is like a strong belief, but then around it, okay, basically there is some beliefs they're similar at the core, but they're slightly different, but they're still similar. Okay. So that's the most important part that you need to understand. And in your daily life, what happens is you're actually cycling between these beliefs all the time like this. Okay. And that's why you're living on autopilot 90% of the time or 95% of the time. Okay. So I would recommend that you start tracking, your, your responses or, that you're having. Okay. In terms of your beliefs, so you can identify your beliefs. And I recommend tracking 6 things, okay, during the experiences you have during the day, 6 things which can help you basically identify what the beliefs are. And the 6 things are, so number 1 is behavior, okay, and then situation, okay, and then emotion, and then your thoughts, and then people, and the place, like a physical environment, I mean. So if you just track what happens with the 6 variables in any situation that you're involved in, okay, then you may start to see some kind of pattern emerging. And this pattern usually creates some kind of attitude, which then points towards the belief that you have, okay? Now, when you'll be doing this, trying to track and find out your beliefs, it's also good if you basically try to ask yourself why, you're doing this action, or what can be done in the future to improve the situation. Now, you don't have to go too crazy, but I'll talk about this towards the end. Okay, so right now let's move on to the last and fourth section of the grid, okay? And that has to do with your intuition. Okay, so on the board you can see now the full diagram of 4 areas of grid and how they're connected. As you can see, you have your bottom area with intuition and your soul. And so this is more that comes from, actually, you can say, the spiritual world or the creator or the God, if you want to put it that way. And having a good intuition, most of us want to have a better intuition because it allows us to make more accurate decisions in the future, as well as kind of bypass logic in some moments, even though logic may make sense. Your intuition can tell you something else, and you just kind of feel that's the right way to go. We all want to use intuition, but so few of us know how to accurately use our intuition. We all have experiences, when we need to talk to somebody or call somebody, or we are in a geographical area, we're traveling somewhere, we feel like we should take this route or take that airplane, or book this hotel. A lot of experiences that people have with intuition. And, intuition is a big part of grit because it's so built into your unconscious mind, and it comes from your soul. I personally believe it comes from your soul, and the soul is connected to the universe and God. So basically, that's how it kind of works, in my opinion. Okay, so this is a diagram from You Are the Placebo book written by Joe Dispenza. And the book is really good. I recommend that you read the book. But going back to this diagram, it shows that on the top, you have your conscious mind, okay? And at the bottom part, you have your unconscious or subconscious mind. And basically, the intuition is in your subconscious mind. Now, in the second picture that you see right now, it shows the different brainwaves that the brain goes through. And the goal that you want to have is the ability to drop to theta wave down below in the unconscious. Okay, and the reason you want to try to do that at least sometimes during the week is because the theta waves are what is connected to intuition, and actually these theta waves is what actually connects the brain to the fabric of space-time itself. This is where the ideas come from and hunches come from and so on. The best way actually to get into that state is to become tired a little bit, because the state is very closely related to sleep. You experience a lot of the theta waves when you sleep, but also in meditation. And this is something that a lot of people practice. And basically, the deeper you go into meditation, the higher chances you're entering the theta state. Okay. So on this diagram, if you look at the arrow, you can look at the arrow as basically your awareness going from your conscious mind and slowly dropping down into your unconscious mind. Okay. So the one thing you need to understand is the more you can easily tap into your intuition, even if you're awake in certain small trance-like moments during the day, the better you can pick up cues from intuition, and the better your so-called highway between your intuition and the brain will be developed. Okay, so therefore the big plus of meditation, even for small periods of time like 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, is you're going to have developed this better highway between your intuition and your conscious brain. At the top is, if intuition wants to send you some kind of signal, it will have an easier way reaching your conscious brain. Okay, and therefore you can pick up that hunch and make a decision, which again integrates directly into grit, because grit is involved in making good decisions that you want to pursue in the long term. That's your passion, and perseverance is overcoming the obstacles and achieving something that you want. Okay, so also I want to give you one more tip on how to improve your intuition, and it actually has to do on improving the health, or you can call it the vibration of your body. Okay, and there are three main things, which are sleep, food, and exercise. Okay, guys, so I'm not a health coach or a health expert, but I can give you three simple tips that you could implement into your daily or weekly routine in order to improve your well-being. Okay, so for sleep, I would recommend that you dim the lights in a house or apartment to about 50% 1 hour before you go to sleep, and that will help you to transition to easier sleep, okay, when you're ready to go. Okay, so the second point is for diet. I recommend that you remove heavily processed foods such as cakes, cookies, chips, sodas with sugar, and even the diet sodas. At the same time, any frozen kind of quick meals that you buy in the grocery store, okay, and you put it in your freezer. So that will help you to decrease inflammation and clear out your gut. And the gut communicates with your brain all the time. That's what you call intuition, the gut instinct, okay? Yeah, I recommend that you guys do a 10-minute small workout right after you wake up, and then you can eat, shower, and do whatever you want. Please remember, guys, that the better your state, your mental state, and your body state, the faster and clearer messages will travel from your intuition to your conscious brain. And therefore, you'll be able to make better decisions and have better perception. So you can take those decisions, convert them to action, and create the results. Okay? Which again goes back to grit. In conclusion, I would like to talk about the one main big variable, okay, that takes and all these 4 areas of grit, okay, and it brings them together. And that variable is awareness. Self-awareness is basically the ability to see ourselves clearly and also understand how others see us and how we fit into the world, the bigger picture. So the clearer you are on all these 3 areas, the better is your self-awareness of yourself. Okay, so I have found this TED Talk on YouTube, and it's really interesting the way the presenter Tasha talks about the self-awareness, and she says there are 2 types of people. The first type are the people who think they're self-aware, and then there are the second type who actually are self-aware. And it's funny that she found out that 95% of us think that we are self-aware, and only 5% are actually self-aware. And the interesting thing that she found out is people who are self-aware, they ask the what question. And the reason being, when you ask the why question, or why did this happen, or why did not happen, is because it tends to lead to more rumination or thinking about the problem or the issue you're having, and actually makes you more depressed. Now, there is definitely a value in trying to ask why. I myself ask why a lot. Okay, also, I did end up putting myself in a depression and also getting out of it. But the answers I discovered, okay, in the end, actually released me emotionally from asking a lot of questions and understanding things much better and relaxing. But I did have to go through some suffering in order to achieve that. So what she's saying, in order to avoid it, is to ask the question, what? Specifically in a way that what I can do to improve my situation. Now, personally, what I recommend is you ask both. You ask the why and you ask the what. But the key thing here is to basically ask why less and ask what more. So let's say why only 20% of the time and ask what 80% of the time. Because this way you still can get the answers you want in terms of why it's happening, okay? But you will not get yourself into depression or anxiety or stress, okay? And when you ask yourself what most of the time, more of your resources or your brain are dedicated to finding a solution to your problem. So therefore, you can go ahead and act on it and basically solve it. Alright guys, so for the final note, I want to give you kind of some hope, okay? Please understand that not everybody, even people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos, okay, even they don't have perfect grit developed, even though they're pretty good. Don't stress about having your intuition not fully developed, or the fact that you cannot find out your beliefs, or that you cannot kind of grasp where your perception coming from and how can I track your perception better. Okay, don't stress out about all these 4 areas of grit too much. But what I do recommend is, if you're struggling with one of the areas, just kind of spend more time on it. Okay, and don't worry about the rest. Okay, I hope you guys found this video very helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.